Hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar looking at custom properties. I'm Martin from support, and I'll be joined today by...
Hi, Karen. I'm Karen. And welcome. Today I'll be working, and just like every day, I'll be working in the background here, helping out with the Q&A, which we will have throughout the session. If you have a question, please add it to the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen there. That's where we will be looking. And also try to keep your questions on topic just keep it on topic. And that's all. I'll see you later.
Thank you, Karen. Right, first and foremost then, let's start off just talking about, sorry for the apology for the time mix-up. We obviously scheduled this for last week, and of course in between there and now there has been a summertime time change. So apologies for that, but moving on and starting off with today's webinar then. It is about custom properties. But what I wanted to do before diving in onto custom properties is to show you a project that we've been working on that's utilizing them. So here it is. It's a shop, all right? And what this shop will do, or rather what the skin is going to do, is it's going to detect what room you're in, and it's going to be showing this little accessibility logo. So if I change to a different room, you'll see it hide. And if I come back again, it's showing back again. What this is doing is that we're using custom properties in this panorama that when we click on this logo, it's giving us a little bit more information about the space we're in or the room we're in. So it says here, like shop entrance, it's got two steps to get into the door. The door width is 762 millimeters, which is not really wheelchair friendly because it's about 900 mil that you want for wheelchairs. And it gives you other information about access into the second floor. There's no lift and blah, 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 blah. So if you look around, you'll see that the access is through a little windy-windy staircase. So it's giving you some more information that you would otherwise have. Now you can turn that on and off or leave it on. And as we wander through the shop, this particular room is going to be fairly easy to get through. Once you've obviously got past the barriers of the first room, getting into this room, there is no more difficulty. But getting into the next room, we'll see that the little logo appears again. And again, door width is 762 mil, so not very good for wheelchairs. And there's a single step. So you've got this little nodge here on the floor. So this is what the custom property for the user data is giving us. We can add more information per node. All right, so that's that one here. Now, if we wander back to the main shop area, you'll see that we've got these hotspots, these I for information hotspots. Now, again, these are using custom properties or custom hotspot properties, hotspot custom properties, however you want to call it, but they're custom properties for the hotspot. And again, this allows us to add more information. So if I click on a hotspot, you'll see that it's going to give us a title, it's going to give us some information about the product, the color of the product, and the price. Now, all of those are separate fields, and again, just purely for the hotspot. So if I click on this top one, what we've got going on here is the same thing, except for we've got a nice little trick going on that that if the information has lots of text, it expands so far and then stops, and then we start to get a scroll area, and that is fully automatic. So as you go to different point hotspots here, there isn't so much text, so the scroll bar is not quite so heavy, or so a larger scroll handle, if you like, but not as much text as, say, this one that's got a lot more. So, and that's being done automatically. But the thing here is, in hotspots, if you're new to Pano2VR, we've always had in our hotspots. So let's go to the Pano2VR interface. If we select a hotspot, you can see that we've always had the ability to add a title and add a description. And in the past, these were always being abused. People would put an image path in here to an image. So when you clicked on a hotspot, it could show an image as well. But of course, you've only got so many fields, and then you ran out. And it's the same with the user data. If I click inside the panorama, select the user data tab here, and it was the same here. We had title, description, author. So we had some more fields that you could play with within the skin editor. But again, people were quickly running out. Now, each of these have a placeholder. Now, what I'm going to do before I start confusing everybody is get to our website and just show you that if we go to the website, documentation, Pano2VR, 6, same thing with 7, go to references and list of placeholders. So we have a look at this list, and you've got all of these little shortcuts like these dollar $HS for us. So under the hotspots, so dollar open bracket HS close bracket, what that will do, let's just move that out of the way. What that will do is if I add a text box in the skin and put that placeholder in there, any text in this title of the hotspot automatically gets displayed. So basically the placeholders are linking this information to the output in the skin. But of course, as we were saying, we quickly run out of these text fields. So this was the whole point of custom properties. You can see that I've added 2 here, and we can keep adding them and adding as many as we need. I don't know if there's a limit, but you know, I've not bumped into one and I've added quite a few. But I'm going to keep it sort of simple for this project. And also what I want to do in this webinar is sort of look at the possibilities that these can give you in the, in your own project. Now, as I say, this is a shop project. So this shop project, the hotspot, I want to see a title of the product. I want to see a description of the product. And under here, I'm using the custom property to show the price and then the color. And you'll see that all of the hotspots, so you can just overtype the information in here, and you can just, change it if it's blank or whatever. You can just add the property. Because it's added, you don't have to utilize it. It's just there if you do. Okay, so that's basically custom properties and what they do and what they give us. So again, coming back to our project, we've got this where we can add, information for the project, for the products. We can, add lots of information if we want to. And, as we wander around, we're using the hotspot, the user data custom property to give us more information about the location that we're in. Okay, so that's in a nutshell what the custom properties are. This is a shop environment, but how else could you use them? As an example, you could, if you've got, other products, you could have like weight, size, attributes. So on a hotspot, you could add that information as well. I've done this just to sort of show what can be done, but of course, you guys, I'm sure, will have your own ideas on how you can use them. Okay, so that's a basic introduction to them. I'm going to throw this back to Karen. I know it's fairly quick and we've not really done anything yet, but this is custom properties, and I'm just wondering if we've got any questions so far. Karen?
No, we don't. Not so far.
Okay, cool.
Let's give him maybe a minute for anyone to quickly type something. Yeah, but no, I don't think so.
Okay, no, I do realise it's a bit soon, so yeah.
Yeah, maybe any I don't know, questions maybe about just the project itself, or I don't know. Oh.
Yeah, no worries.
Let's keep going. Okay.
I will carry on. Okay, right. So this is the project. So how is this built? Because if we go through that, that gives you a bit more of an understanding of what's going on. Right. So in this project, then we select a node. We can select any of the nodes, because when you add a custom property, it will, especially in the user, because we are in the user data. So this is what I mean by nodes, and it's very important that there is a definition. You've got 2 lots of custom properties. You've got one lot in the user data, and then you've got another lot in the point hotspots. Now, this user data, the custom property in the point hotspot is unique to this point hotspot. So if you add any data here, it only applies to this one point hotspot. All right. But with the node, obviously, any information we add here is unique to this node. All right. So that's the 2. And I do want to separate that, and I will, and you'll see why that's important later. But anyway, so let's get back to this, because what we had before was these text areas that we could enter information with or in, and then use a placeholder. If you hover over it, you can see here the copyright one. You'll see that the placeholder tooltip pops up and says, if you want to use that, if you want to display that information in the skin, have a text box with $open bracket UC close bracket. You know, that you actually see that, and that helps you. But so you've only ever been able to take information and display it in the skin. The custom properties not only does that, but you can do other things. Like here, we've actually got a true false logic going on. Sounds scary, but it's not. I'll just show you how that was created. If we click the green plus to add a new one, it opens up the custom properties dialog box, and we give it a normal description. So in this case, we would call it, I don't know, access, right? So let's just let's reproduce this one here. So it would be access. It's going to create a variable in the skin. So let's give it a more usable name in the skin. So I would call it var, I don't know, underscore access. And we have 3 different types. We have text, numbers, and what we call a Boolean, so a true false type of variable. Now, if you're new to Pano2VR, please bear with me on this, but if you're an old timer, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But basically, I'm going to change this to true false, so its home state is going to be false. All right, so if I click this, well, I'm just going to close it and have a look at this now. So that would have been its home state. All right, but in this node, I say node in this panorama. So for those again not familiar, we refer to panoramas as nodes. So this would be a 3-node tour because there's 3 panoramas. All right, so it's a 3-node tour. So in this particular node, I want to see the little wheelchair icon to say that there is a barrier here for someone with mobility issues. So I'm going to click that and select that to true. The middle panorama that didn't show it is set to false. In fact, and there's no text here at all because there was no issues at all. And then the last one, again, it needed to show the logo, it showed the door width, and then it showed the entrance. If you need to add more text, you can use these little buttons with the pencil on them, and it expands the text box, and you can type away as much as you want in there. Okay, so there's this. If we go back to the skin, what I want to do is have a look at the accessibility button. If we click this, you'll see that the button itself, visible, is deselected. And under the logic block, you'll see that var access, which is the variable, when it equals true, we will show the button. All right, so let's go back to that. So when that access is true, this button will show. If I click in the skin canvas, you'll see then the variables in the skin. Now, these variables that are in the user data will have the user data icon here. So we've got this new column here called source in the variable list. So you can see that these variables are coming from the user data. These particular ones are coming from point hotspots. Okay, so, and the other thing I want to say as well is that when currently, and in this version I'm using, because I'm using the version that you guys have got, this is the current beta 2 that's public release. But basically what happens, so if we have a look at this entrance text, if I was to delete that, you'll see it pops down here. So how it works at the moment, and it will change, but how it works at the moment is if you add a new variable or custom property here, right, and you go back to the skin, it will find itself here. So what you do is you select it and you add the variable to the list. Okay, if you don't add the variable to the list, you can't find it in the skin. It needs to be added to the variable list in the skin. On the next releases, what's going to happen is we're going to miss this step. So when you add something here, it's going to go directly in the skin. And I'm also a quick conversation with the team before we went on air earlier about, you know, because this is how we've always approached the animation editor. You know, if we create a variable track in the animation, that also ended up in a list that you would select and then add it to the skin. Again, that's going to be added. I think the reason why we can add them now is because now we can see where the source is coming from. So we can say, look, yeah, these ones are coming from the hotspots. These ones are coming from the user data. Okay, so that's basically how this is working. So with the user data then, all I've got is text boxes. So if we have a look at the accessibility pop-up, here it is. That's got a visible logic block to say that, you know, if access is true, then show it, and this button will toggle a variable, which it does. So var access info, and that toggles it from true false, and when it's true, this pop-up will show. Okay, but the text boxes, if we have a look, let's just move that over there, and let's just move that over here so we can try and see everything on the screen. As you can see, we've got door width, which is the one in the middle, and then you've got so here, for argument's sake, the door width is 762 millimeter, but to display that when it was in the skin, so let's have a look at it's going to be one of these. So door width, the variable is var underscore door underscore width. So to find it, all I did with this text box was to type in door width. I'm just going to delete that just to show you how easy this is, and then we have a insert placeholder. I know it looks like we're using code, but it's really not. These are placeholders, and to find it, you would click this insert placeholder, go to your variables, and then we want door width. When we click that, it automatically inserts the right placeholder to display that data. Okay, so that's basically how the disability or mobility button works. It's basically using the custom properties. I can type in the data that I want to be displayed here. The only trick bit that's probably not part of it, but I'm going to show you anyway, is that obviously some of these nodes don't have all of the data. So what I didn't want to do is just have a big blank area. So what we did, or to actually combat that, was to say that, you know, if for argument's sake var levels, if that one was empty, so equals empty, then we would move the position of this one. So where there was a gap, then the other text boxes would either move up or down to fill the gap. So we're sort of getting a little bit clever there. So again, with the widths one, we're saying that if the door width equals empty, we're going to hide it. And if we go to the one above it, you'll see that if the door width equals empty, that's going to come down by 30 pixels. All right, and so that would fill its. So this one would disappear, and this would come down to fill its location. And if we have a look at the output, which I'll keep closing, which I shouldn't, but if we have a look at the output then, so let's just whiz it around and get to the door, you'll see that these two are still stacked up quite nicely together and no gap in the middle. Okay, so that's how that was built, and again using these custom properties. So the custom properties here did two things. One, it gave us a true false boolean, in other words, can I switch something on and off? And then it also gave us the ability to add more information to text boxes. Okay, we also have numbers as well. So what I could have done as an example was door widths, use the numbered variable, so a numbered type variable, and say, look, if it goes above 900, we could have changed its color in the skin. So 900 millimeters, we could have turned it red. That's going to be in a future build, we'll be able to do that. But anyway, I'll just throw it back to Karen. I think I've covered quite a bit there in one hit. Do we have any questions?
Hi, yes, we do.
Awesome.
So, okay, so I'm just kind of going over our questions, because I think, Aslan and Rolf, I think your questions are basically the same. So let's see if we can kill two birds with one stone. Aslan is saying he's got a shop, like a project that is a shop or a store, and the store's products change really quickly. And, so he's swapping out new, for every season there's new product. And he wants to be able to click on a shelf and pop up a window that pops it shows an image or a video on one side and then text or information about that product and a buy button on the other side. But the problem that he's having is that he's creating too many different windows for each product, and you have to do this, twice a year to, redo all the products and everything. And so he's looking for a way to have that same design that he can reuse, and then, but the products can easily change within those windows.
Right. Okay. Yep. Mark.
And just to add, just to pause, because Rolf is asking, is there a way to load the variable data from a text or a table? So I think both of these things can be done using the custom properties. I think. So
right. Okay. With the custom properties, no. I think if I understand correctly, what's being asked here is external content. So you can have like an external sheet that you can update, and that will update the content inside the tour. Is this right? I'm thinking that's where this is probably going.
That's what Rolf is asking.
Right,
But
okay.
on a more general level, Aslan is asking, how to basically automate updating those products, so he doesn't have to go in there and have like 20 different bits and everything.
Right.
So
okay.
like I think that in that case, like the table. Importing a table isn't going to work, but you can do this with JavaScript. So
you can, but also I'm thinking, just thinking out loud, what you could do is if you didn't want to actually go inside the, so once you've built the tour done, right, done, okay. Like for the image, you could use an external loader, and then on your server you have certain directories that, each directory would then facilitate an image to be shown in an external loader. So externally you could change that image as long as it's the same file name and same physical size. That image could be anything. You could swap it out next time the browser refreshes it, or caches, or drops its cache and refreshes. It will then see the new image. We've already seen in the Facebook user group and forum that if you were to do something like, Google Sheets, for argument's sake, and open up a spreadsheet, they give you a URL. You can actually have a URL for a Google Sheet. You can literally slap it in, or put it in, using an iframe into a text box. So again, somebody could log into a Google Sheet and update just the text on that, prices, SKUs, all that sort of stuff. And of course, the panoramic tour will just open and read that data. So if you've changed it on Google, then it will change in the panorama. So there is an external way of updating images and updating data. What you may be able to do as well, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, obviously, because we're not doing it, is, say, well, if a text box is blank, we can hide that. So if there is data missing, that you could turn and say, right, well, if that data is not there, then we can hide the text box. So again, rather than having like what I wanted to do with this here, we had one of the values missing. So using logic blocks, we moved the text boxes around to keep it nice and neat. You could do a similar sort of thing as well, but with external content. That's just a few ideas I'm sort of just kicking around with, obviously being caught on the hop, didn't know this question was coming. So, but that's just a couple of things that you could do, externally load images. So you can, so on a server, you can update them willy-nilly, doesn't matter. And, and a Google Sheet that basically Google actually give you an embed code for that. You can use the embed code into a text box, bang, done. You just update the Google Sheet on Google Docs and away you go.
Yeah, I think that's the one way, and I think you can set this up also using the custom properties so that it's also already set for you in the skin there. Barb is asking, can you do it by date? You mean set up the variables?
What by date? I'm not quite sure the question. Do what by date?
Can you go back? Can you show the skin and maybe the variables? I think because there's the three types of variables, right? We have text, number, and true, false.
That's it, Boolean.
That's the Boolean. Yep. So
What, you want to be able to do something by a certain date, activate something, right?
Could be. I think that's what she means. Yeah.
Right. We actually have a component in the tool in the forum that does this already. I don't know if I can quickly find it to show you, but this was one of the things. In fact, we've got a project on at the moment that shows two different panoramas depending on the date. So when it's winter, we actually show a panorama with snow on the ground. In the summer, we show the same panorama, but in the sunshine even. But yeah, if I go to skins and have a look at useful posts index, I'm not sure if it's in here. Can't see it. Maybe then in the, if I go back to skins components, it may be a component. I can't remember if it was a project or a component, but it is. But it's definitely in here somewhere. Date range trigger component. There we go. Boop, there it is. So date range trigger example. If we have a look, we're probably going to be seeing. Here we go, because we're in the summertime now. We missed it, but this panorama in the winter time will show snow everywhere. So it's using a date range to change the panoramas. All right, but in answer to your question, there is a date range trigger in there, and that's a how-to and a project you can download and play with. I hope that answers that one.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I was just, I'll try and find that that one and put it in the. I'll try and find that link and put that in the chat for you guys. And yeah, okay. So I think that's it. Yeah, you're welcome, Aslan. Happy to help. And I think that's it. We can move on.
Excellent. Right. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, guys. Right. Let's move then. Okay. Okay, so that's basically the custom properties for the user data. And I said it's important to understand where these are coming from, hence why we've got these little images here. So this clearly shows that it's coming from user data. These clearly show it comes from the point hotspots. Now, why is this important? Well, the data, the custom properties coming from a node is a constant. It's there all the time. As soon as you enter that node, that data is available all of the time. Point hotspot ones are a little bit different, as in you only get the data from the point hotspot when the mouse is made connection to it. Now, this has always been the case, But as an example, if I was just to quickly add a text box, and as I said before, we use these insert placeholder. So if I do hotspots and add title, all right, now let's just get the previous text out of the way. I didn't want to show that, so let's just get that out the way. All right, so here is that text box with the placeholder. Now if I hover over the point hotspot, you'll see that we are now picking up the title. But this is the difference, and the main difference between a user data custom property and a hotspot custom property. The hotspot custom property is only available when the mouse is over the hotspot. Okay, so in this particular project, what we've done is added the product info as a child of the hotspot template. So as soon as you're rolling over this, you're actually getting all of these, obviously all of this data. Okay, so if you wanted to have, say, the title to be hard written and stay there, you would need to actually create an action. All right. Note to self, stop playing with the skin because the auto update flashes in the background. But that just shows you how responsive it is, so that's a good thing. Right, okay. So what we're saying then is if I wanted to show this, I wouldn't necessarily have any text in the text box, but what I would do is I would need to add an action to the hotspot template, and I would say mouse click, set value, and the value would be the $HS. So dollar, open bracket, HS, close bracket. All right. So this is what we're saying. So let's just follow this through. All right. Mouse click. We're going to set a value. The value is going to be this hotspot title, and we're going to set it to text box 1, which is the name of this text box at the top here. All right. So let's just have a look and see what this does. So now when I hover over it, obviously nothing's going to happen because there's no placeholder in there. But when I click it, Oh, no, that was a point hotspot. All right, let's do that again with the right hotspot, shall we? So that was a point hotspot. So this is because we did it with the information hotspots. So I click the information hotspot, we now get the title of the point hotspot. And if I change it, you can see that. So now, so even though that data is only available when my mouse is over the hotspot, because I'm using that action on click to set that information to the text box, that text box can now permanently display it. So that is the big key difference between the two. Okay, as I say, with a user data one, you know, we can just get the text box to show it with just using the placeholder. All right, but with a point hotspot, you've got to be able to set that data in there. Okay, so that's the main differences and what I really wanted to get across, and hopefully I have. Now I've just deleted the text box. We can now see that the new find errors is kicked in, and seeing that we've got an error there. When I double click it and have a look, you'll see that we got the error because we removed that text box from the skin. The skin editor is now complaining that there is an issue. I can now delete that and no more issues. So that was quite good. Right, okay, so this works, as I say, very similar to what we've talked about already with the mobility issue text box and showing you, you know, or picking up the data from the hotspots. But what I want to show you here is some little tricks that we did. All right, now, as I say, the tricks we did here was, let's just hide that text box, is when we've got very little and no text, there's no scroll bar. And when we've got a lot of text, there's a scroll bar. So what's going on here? Why is this happening? How does this happen? How can I make it work as well? And the interesting thing here is that this text box is expanding upwards, but the text box is always, the actual title text box is always on top of it. So I think that needs a little bit of explaining. How I've done that is, if you look, the information box is the one that was going to expand. It's here. If we have a look at its attributes, you can see that I've set it to word wrap, auto size, scroll bar. So what do these mean? Well, in a nutshell, word wrap, if this was deselected and auto size was selected, as we give this text box more information or more text, it will just get wider and wider and wider and wider and wider and fall off the screen. Okay. But if we select word wrap, what it's going to do now is obey the width of the text box. So it's going to get to the end of the text box, then jump down a line. All right. Okay. And it will keep on doing that. And with the auto size added, the text box will just get longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. And you won't get to see the scroll bars because the text box is just going to keep on going. And you're just not going to stop and it'll fall off the bottom of the screen, depending if you've got loads and loads and loads of text. So how on earth do we stop this getting too long? Right, well, in the in Pano2VR, you know, we don't have goalposts. We allow you that if you want to get a little bit creative, you can. You know, it's not, this is a button, you're going to use this button, you might change the icon, but this button will always do what it does. With Pano2VR, with our interface, our CSS, if you know what you're looking for, you can apply these cool little features. Now, this is called max height. That's what we're looking for. So if I was to go to the wibbly wobbly web and type in CSS, because that's what we deal with, and max height, hit return, we'll see my favorite go-to, which is this W3 schools, and you'll see this little bit of CSS code there, max height and 50 pixels. I'm going to copy that. Actually, I probably won't, but I don't need it, but I will show you where this is. So in the info text box, when I scroll down, we have a max height. We just sort of basically pasted that in there and I changed it to 75 pixels. So what we're saying is that this text box is going to start off at 25 pixels high. All right. And as I add more text and more text and more text, when it gets to 75 pixels, it's going to stop. And when you get past 75 pixels, you will then see the scroll bar. All right. So this is why some of the point hotspots don't have a scroll bar and some of them do, because some of the text bar, the content of the text box will go below 75 pixels, and others will go above. And as soon as it goes above 75 pixels, you see the scroll bar. Magic. Right. Okay. So, but how on earth do I keep, if the scroll bars, because if the box is going to expand, then how do you keep text boxes within it, on top of it and underneath it? And because under normal circumstances, what would have happened is that this text box would have expanded and gone behind or in front of the text box, either on top of it or below it. So how have we done this? Right, well, it's all to do with the anchoring position. So here, as you can see, we've got the title is basically pinned on top of all of the other boxes. It's there. And we've done that by the anchoring. What we've said is that we've added the title as a child of this text box. All right, the info text box, the one that's going to expand, and we've set the anchor to the bottom. So this text box will always be anchored at its bottom, so the top of the info box. So as the info box expands, this will go up with it. All right, so that's how that's working. Now, expand direction. So how do we know which direction it's going to expand? Well, if you look here, if you click the bottom anchor position, we're saying that's its anchor point. So if you're going to get bigger, you're going to go upwards. Had I selected the top anchor point, then it would have scrolled downwards, or expanded or scaled from top downwards. Okay, so you can control which direction it's going in from either the top or the bottom. And you can then either set the text box. Here I've put it at the top and anchored the text box at the top as well. So it will always stick there and go up with the expanding text box there. I mean, I could have changed this around, so anchored that at the bottom, moved this text box below it, and then we could have had the same scenario. As the text box expanded downwards, a text box like this would have stayed at the bottom of it. So we've got all this text can expand and they all stay together. Now, I was chatting with the team before coming on and said, well, is there any reason why I just couldn't keep doing this? So all of these boxes could be auto sizing, but have a limit. And the answer was no. You could do that. You could set off with your all these text boxes, as long as you're making a child of each text box, and you've got the anchoring correct. There should be no reason why you could have 3 or 4 text boxes that change the size, but dependent on its content, but all stay together. So yeah, that's how that was created, and that's how that was done, and it gives a really, really good effect. And I thought, well, whilst I'm here, I would actually show how that's working. All right, so getting back then to the custom property of the hotspot, as you can see under the color here.
Hey, Martin.
Go on,
sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you just show the effect again in the browser, what it looks like, just to get a...
Yep, no worries.
Just to see it again.
So here, right, let's break this down. So here we've got 4 text boxes. We've got the title. In this area, we've got the description. And here we've got a custom property, color yellow, and a custom property of the price. All right. Okay, so what's happening is the expanding text box is in the middle of 2. Okay, so if I was to move this, you can see that this particular hotspot, let's have a look at the project. Let's get to the here. You'll see that this particular hotspot has a lot of text in its description. Okay, so therefore all of that text is there. If I go to this text or this hotspot, you'll see that it only has a little bit. So what's happening is that description text box is auto sizing, and as it gets smaller, the title text box, as I say, is almost pinned on top of it. So as that text box reduces in height, so this title text box stays with it. So if we click between the two, you'll see that it's taller here until it gets to 75 pixels, and then we get the scroll bar. And here it's below 75 pixels, so it's reduced in height and no scroll bar. And here, this particular hotspot has no description text at all, and because it's got no description text at all, the text box is almost gone down to like 1 pixel wide. or 1 pixel in height, so it looks like it's completely gone. It's not. It's still there, but because there's no text in there, it's crunched right down. So it's bringing the title text even further closer to the other text boxes below it. And again, if we have a look at this one, you'll see that we've got not quite as much description text as our first hotspot, but enough to go over the 75 pixel mark and to create a scroll bar. So there you go. So that gives you quite a nice effect, and you know it's neat. There's no gaps, there's no holes, and again we're using logic blocks to fill any holes if we need to. But in this particular case, as there is no text, the text box just crunches down. As it crunches down, the pinned or the anchored text at the top just follows it downwards like that, and that's the result that you get. So 2 different sizes, and it's all the same hotspot that's now taking care of what it looks like automatically. So you just enter the data by using the title, the description, and then you can enter the price and then the color. And of course, because these are custom properties, we can do other things like add as I say, a numbered custom property or a Boolean custom property. Now, that brings me to another point, and something else I want to cover as well. We could have added a, let's just have a custom one. So we're going to call it click, and we're going to call it var underscore click. Now, I will say, right, I will say this is not fully working at the moment. The next release and it will be fully functional, but what this will enable you to do is, let's just add this. So it's the click var click true false, and it's set to false. So I've added this now as a custom property, right, to the point hotspot. Okay, so what does this do for me? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that the hotspot background, so the background color is white, right? Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do now is, oh, hang on, before I can do this, what did I forget? And why we're doing it differently is just, let's close the skin, because I've added a custom property to the project file. So I needed to close the skin and open it again, so it registers it there, right? So here it is. I'm going to add that to the variables. As I say, in the next build, you won't need to do that step. So when you add a custom property, it puts it in the list that I've got to add it. In the next build, it will just automatically add it to the variable list. But what didn't help is because I've got the skin editor open, because I've updated the project and it wanted to send the data over, I had to close and open the skin editor before I saw it. But anyway, the idea of this then is I can select this, and we will see that the color is white, and I could turn around and say now that with the variable clicked, if it's true, I could send it to, I don't know, red. No, let's probably not red. That's going to be really leery color. Let's put it to green. There we go. So green. I can click OK. That updates the output here. So now when I click on something, hang on, let's just, he says, so let's close, save. So let's update the skin, update the project, update the output, and that should, okay, so what have I missed? Right. Okay, so let's have a look at the hotspot. I've got click is equal false. Let's go to the skin. What I'm trying to do is say that when I've clicked the hotspot, I know what I've done. Right. So when I click the hotspot, I need to change that variable. So what I need to do is go into the hotspot template, and I need to say, actually, I haven't got all my actions here. I've got my actions into this graphic. And I'll explain why in a second, why I've not put it in the hotspot and put it in the graphic. But what I'm going to do is say on click, all right, set the variable value of this click, yeah, to true. All right, so that's when I click that, it's going to go to true on this hotspot. As I said before, the key part of these custom properties in the hotspot is it's unique to this 1 point hotspot. All right, so with that in mind, what we can do is now say that with the background, when the background is now, so when that hotspot is true, we're going to change the color from white to green. All right. Okay, so let's just output that, and we should get that to work. So if I click this hotspot, the background turns green, all the others are white. Now, the current build at the moment is there is an issue that if I move nodes and come back again, it resets all this. But in the next build, this will be remembered completely throughout the tour. So now you could actually set up something to say, right, have I seen all these products? Oh, no, because these ones are white. I've seen that one. I've seen that one, but I haven't seen that one. So where in the past we had nodes visited, we can now create something similar for any type of hotspot, be it a node, be it, in this case, a pop-up of information. We could now do this for image pop-ups or video pop-up hotspots. We can now give some sort of logic to say, have we visited that, yes or no. All right, so that's just another little something that we can add to these hotspots. So that was the click. So that's using the boolean true false. So its go state is false. All right, and that needs to be there for, obviously, because we only see that when we hover over it. And of course, what needed to happen there was this mouse click to set that to true. So when we click on that hotspot, that one hotspot sets that variable to true for that hotspot, and for that hotspot only, that background by using the variable changes to green. Okay, so I think that was that's quite a bit of a jump there. Karen, got any questions?
Yeah, we have a few questions.
Sorry, I was a bit abrupt there. I just thought, oh, this would be a good place to stop, but I'm saying it in my mind.
I was ready. I was ready.
All right. Okay. Cool.
Totally ready here. I was. I'm trying to. Aslan's got a question where he's asking if the text can stay, and he says that text. I'm guessing the text within the pop-up there, if it can stay for 5 seconds and then start moving automatically, like in an animated way. And he says, like in futuristic movies. And Aslan, I'm wondering what you mean by futuristic movies. Like, what's the vision here? Because we all have different versions, I think, of.
All right, okay. I'm sort of thinking that when we click on it and the text expands, the box just all of a sudden starts to expand bigger so it can show all of the text in one hit. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, and the answer is no. No, that's
maybe with JavaScript.
Possibly, but I'm sort of working with the realms of the interface at the moment, and what my poor little brain can think of at the moment as well. But possibly, I'm going to leave it at that.
I'm sure there's a way, but if anything, I guess with JavaScript, it could be done like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with actions, we can mouse click, scale, and then put because obviously with our new actions we can have a delay, so we could delay a scaling. So in that sort of we could delay a height setting. You said change height, so click, have a delay, so on click, change the text, and then say half a second later change the height for the text box, and then a delay on how, or a transition time on how long we could do this. So thinking about it, we probably could, within the realms of the interface as it is, without actually doing any JavaScript.
Probably. It wouldn't surprise me, Martin, if you figured that out.
So I'm just thinking that's probably doable, to be honest. Yeah, but don't ask me to do it now. But yeah, because it probably needs some thinking about. But yeah, no, I'm just thinking that because obviously with the actions we covered last week, we've got all these calls, like you can, if you've got a move or a change, or a change size or set size or something like that, or not set but change size, we can add a delay when it happens and then a transitional time for it to happen. Mm-hmm. So with that said, yes, I'm sure we could possibly do something.
Yeah, maybe we can. Yeah.
Now there's a thought.
There's a thought. There's a project.
Yeah, there's a project.
Barb is asking if you can load an image in the text box and then animate it. So like fade it in, or like a book opens and.
Can you load an image in a text box? Yes, you can.
We had a whole webinar on that, I think.
Yeah. You can use the image tag. It's like the HTML image tag. So you can have a bit of text, use an image tag to bring an image in, and then some text wrap around it and things like that. I'm not sure with the different effects. I'm probably sure you could. Yeah, I'm at a stretch. I'm sort of thinking, because the interface allows you to throw in CSS and JavaScript, I'm sure there is some CSS or JavaScript out there to do exactly what you want. It's just a case of finding it. With me, I'm not a coder. I'm not a programmer. I say this to so many people and they say, oh, you're a programmer. No, I'm not. All right. Basically, what I go on is I think about what I want to find. It's like this max hype thing. I typed in max hype. And I probably spent about 10 minutes, and then I found what I wanted, and then I found it was just a click, copy and paste, and put it in a text box. The art of Pano2VR is it gave you in the text box where you need to add it. So under CSS inner styles, I thought, all right, I had it there, and then I started getting all this max height working, and that's a really cool effect. But the interface as a go doesn't have that. There isn't a button in here that says there's a max height, set max height, I don't know, 75 pixels, and it stops. Perhaps we can add that. Perhaps we can add that as a feature request. But then what that will do is add some more attributes to this properties for the text box, where it's just a simple one-line copy and paste, done. I think that's a decision for the team when we come to things like this, as what do we actually add as into the interface, and what is relatively simple with just a quick search to do it this way. Don't know, sky's the limit. And it's just finding those boundaries, really. But yeah, sorry, I just babbled, sorry.
No. I was just coming in agreeing with you, So, Federico, you have a good question. Nice, simple question. How do you delete the custom properties? Do you type outside the skin editor like the var click?
How do I delete the custom property? Right, okay. Just hit that button here. Now, at the moment, of course, the custom property, if I was to delete one, it would right, okay. Custom property versus variable. The variable of the custom property you would delete there. The custom property itself, right? So here it is, not in here, but where you've got the title of the custom property, right button click, and you can delete it, edit the description, or edit the value. All right. So here we've got 10. Like the value is 10.99, and you can just do that. All right. But here, for argument's sake, I can do true or false, but that's not editing the default value. What I could do here is edit the value, and now this is its default that the skin is using, and the default was false. All right. So yeah. That's how you do that. I think that answered that one, I hope. But yeah, you can right button click any of these. So it's the same for the user data ones. So the user data custom properties or the point hotspot custom properties is, I think here we copy and paste in the text field. So you would on the actual title, right button click, and then you can do delete it or copy it. But if you delete it here, obviously, please remember to delete it in the skin, or you will get a little warning popping up saying something's not right. You've broke it. All right. Now, I think with variables, if you get something wrong with a variable, you can end up with a blank output. I've had it a couple of times and gone, oh no, I broke it. And yeah, it was just where I've deleted something and not deleted it in the skin, and the skin's trying to find something, and it's getting so far down its code and then stopping. And yeah, but generally speaking, it's fairly straightforward. Delete it from here, done. Okay. Any more, Karen?
Okay. Yeah. I'm just going in and I'm trying to keep up with some of the questions here. So Barb has got another question. Oh, I think this was related to a previous one. A freeze and then it starts to roll or ease in. Oh, the animation is at. Okay, but I think this is Barb is and adding more information to her previous question about animating an image in a text box. I think that's what I'm understanding that is, and I think then we have already answered that one.
Actually,
no?
just to expand on that a little bit,
Yeah,
just my
sure.
thoughts are, I wouldn't actually add an image to a text box. What I'd probably be inclined to do is use a container to draw out the size of your information. And then what you'd probably want to do is add a separate either an external loader or an image, and add that into the container, and then add the text. You could add a text box beside it and underneath it, and then you could control all of those not attribute. You could actually control the image. You can control the text here and the text underneath it, and you build that text box up. So not just adding a text box and trying to do it all with code and get yourself confused. You could just draw a container and just have a text box at the top and a picture at the bottom, or a picture at the top and one at the bottom, or half and half, and you build it that way. That would be one way of doing it. Again, using no coding, just using the skin editor, and that would be fairly straightforward. But if you're a website developer and code, then it's probably easier to do just having a text box and add in, I don't know, image tags and all the other bits and pieces you want to do. So it's whatever floats your boat and whatever's easier for you, I think, is the answer to that one.
Okay. Yeah, I think.
Stop rambling, Martin. Okay.
No. I think that's fine, and I think Barb and Rolf are having some ideas with how this animation might work, and I think you've answered that. I want to ask Barb's question here. How do you add it from the external window below? Just drag or click it. I've lost now where it is.
Right, okay. Right, I think it's when we added a custom property. So let me just close the skin editor, because if you're doing that, it's a good idea to close this. Save and close it, right? Because if you're adding custom properties here, it's obviously got to feed it over to the skin editor. And it's not going to do that if the skin editor's open. So that's got an important thing. I'm only keeping it open because of the webinar. But basically, if I'm going to add a custom property, so we added one called click, right? So let's add another one. Let's just call it, I don't know, because we haven't done one yet, number. So let's just have a var underscore number, and I'm going to make it a numbered variable, and I'm going to have it the number 1. I'm going to leave it blank. All right, I'm going to leave it blank because I don't want a number in there, because that's the whole point of having a custom property, is I can add a number in there if I want. So let's add 5. Okay, so if I now open up the skin, so I've added this to my project. I'm going to open up skin editor, and here you can now see that variable under here, or that custom properties variable is sitting here in the project properties. And then what you would do is click it to highlight it. It's important that you do click and highlight it, because if it's not highlighted, let's just expand that. Let's click somewhere else. Okay, no, I've actually clicked and highlight. But if I deselect it and try and add it, nothing's going to happen. You've got to select it, and then I can add it to the skin, and there it is, a number. All right, so I could actually now, because it's in the skin, I can now use our insert placeholder variable number. So there is let's get rid of the word text. I keep doing that this webinar. Normally I'm pretty good. So we do that, and now what we'll have is the number 0 until we hover over, and that's now showing 1. There we go. Job done. So if I want to delete this, then let's do this. So let's close the skin. So what I would do is, if I wanted to delete that hotspot variable, I would go to number, delete that, open the skin, find the variable in the skin, and delete it there, and that is now completely removed from the project. Wow, here we go. All right, how are we doing for questions? Any more?
Cool. Yeah, no, Barb says thanks. Well, thank you.
But I will say, in the next release, there would be you won't need to do that. When you update this, with the skin editor closed, of course. So when you add it here, the next time you open up the skin editor, it will be in the variables list. All right. So that's so you only have to add it from the current release at the moment. So beta 2, the current public release.
Okay, so you're saying that once you add the custom property to the hotspot or user data, it'll automatically end up in the variables table?
That's right. And also, if you've added a variable track to an animation, because we used to do the same thing with an animation, but now we're going to...
There's no extra step anymore. It just goes plump right into the table.
Absolutely. So I'm hoping we're going to have some sort, I don't know, we're probably going to have a little icon here of a camera reel to dictate where it comes. Dictate, is that the right word? No, what's the word I'm looking for? To say where it's come from.
It's
Yeah,
the source.
yeah, the source.
It'll have the animation editor's
icon
there too. Yeah.
So you know where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Right.
That's it for questions so far. And I just wanted to clarify that Aslan got back to us and he said for the futuristic movies he meant the hologram effect, but never mind. He was just it was don't worry about it. But he was thinking about this hologram effect. So yeah. Okay. That's all.
Yeah. No. All good. All good. Right. Well, I think we've actually covered everything we want to cover with the custom properties. But what I did want to show you, which was quite funny, because Pano2VR started off with, like, the skin editor was very basic, and it was just actions. You added something, and a text box, and you want to give it an action, and you just gave it, nice and simple, mouse click, gave it to do something. I don't know. Angle, change an angle to 45 degrees, and you could set a target, in this case itself, and if we have a look in the preview and I click that, you'll see that it does exactly what it's supposed to do on the tin. Right, okay. And then we started doing things like bringing in variables and logic blocks and all of that, and they were really great because what you could do is set a global variable in the skin, and you could say, right, I'm going to click this, and we're going to change, and this button is going to change that variable to true. And when it changes it to true, we can get it to then change lots of attributes of an element. So we could change its size, we could change its position, we could change its angle, we could change its color. We actually go into all of the, so let's just grab one of these. So like a rectangle. So any of these. So if I had a variable called, I don't know, change as an example, I could open up this scaling and have a look for the variable called change. Obviously it's not there, but look for change, and if it's true, set a different, we could change all of its attributes, which was really, 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 really cool. But what was quite amusing is, I don't suppose you may have done, but if we have a look at the output, one of the things that I sort of wanted to do was when we click and you see a pop-up, I want to be able to click the close button and it disappear, and click it again and be a click. But I wanted it to click, but automatically close that one and open this one, but still toggle that, and then obviously have it follow me around. All right. And I thought about this, and I thought, you know what, the simplest way to do this is just with actions, and that got me thinking, and so I built it. Right. So you can clearly see it working. Let me get rid of this text box because that's annoying me. Right, so how did I build this? Well, this takes me back to when I said I don't have any actions in my hotspot template, because normally you would have the action for whatever your hotspot's going to do, like open another node or open a pop-up in the template. But in this particular case, I needed to bring the actions out because I wanted the actions of two different elements to do different things. Now, why is this an issue? Well, if I put all the actions in the hotspot template, actions bubble up. So if I had, for argument's sake, in this graphic, I had an open pop-up action, and in this in the hotspot template, a close, pop-up action. If I was clicking this, it would never work because this would say open it, and then the actions would bubble up, and then this one would close it. So you would never ever see it open. So the way to do that is to not put the action in the parent element. You put the actions in the child element. So in this case, what we did was look at the challenge, and the challenge was to be able to open and close things and have them track you around. And this brings me to this little hash, or the pound sign, and why it's important. Now I know this is slightly digressing, but bear with me because this is one of those little rare tips which I think is really worth knowing. And that's a hotspot is a single element, but you're having copies of it in the output. Okay, so if I was to put an action in here to mouse click show the close button, it would only show it for that one hotspot. The other hotspot, it would still be not showing, so I'd need to click on that hotspot to show that one as well. All right, now if I wanted to hide that when I clicked on this one, because I'm not clicking this one, I can't. So what we've got, and we've always had, I say always had this, we've had this for a very, very, very long time, and that's this hash. It's what we call like the it's an expression or a regular expression, and what this does, this expands the action to all instances. All right, all instances of all the point hotspots. So in this case, right, so this is the task. Let's have a look at the output. So the task then here was to show this and show across, because that's obviously nice to see it cross to it, so click it to open it and across to close it. Also works very nicely on touchscreens, by the way. And when we click this one, this will automatically close and it follows it, you see. And that cross, when I click this one, that cross will hide, and this one hides as well. Okay, so let's get back to the action then of this. And how is this working? Right, so what I'm saying is that, and it also matters the order, because obviously with these actions, the order is important. Okay, because the way Pano2VR executes the actions, it starts at the top and works down, albeit really, really, really quickly, but it does do it. So what we're saying here is, on mouse click, because of the pound, because of the regular expression, I'm closing every instance of the close button, right? But then I'm saying on the next action down, show the close button. But because it's not using a regular expression, it's only affecting the hotspot I'm clicking. So do you see what's going on here? So I click here, all right? I'm closing all of the instances. So here, right, so when I click it, the first action is close all instances of the close button. And then the next action down is to show it, but only for that one. And that's exactly what that's doing. Okay, so you can see that in the actions list. So close, so hide them all first, and then only show the one I want for that particular hotspot. And then the next action down is exactly the same, but for the pop-up window. What I did for the pop-up is I gave it a parent container, product info. So what we're saying is close all instances or hide all instances of the product info, and then show it for the one I'm clicking on. But as I say, because this happens really, really, really quickly, as far as the end user is concerned and yours concerned, is that when we click a hotspot, it's just changing. You're not actually, there is no time to see it not actually open straight away, because it is opening as soon as you click it. All right, so that's doing that. Okay, so that's what's going on here. Now, how do I close it on the second click? Because that was the other task was, well, I've clicked it and I've got it to move over, but now how do I click it on my second click? All right, well, this is the trick, because I've got a second graphic going on. So here we had everything to open it locally to that one hotspot, and the actions here close or hide the cross and the pop-up on the other hotspots and just show it for the hotspot you're on. But the close button will now show, and when the close button shows, all I have to do is to click it and just close locally. So only to, and I'm using the terms locally and globally. So if it's got a pound sign in it, the action will affect all of the pop-up, all of the point hotspots. If it doesn't, it only affects the one that you're clicking. So here, this will be the only hotspot, rather. So this would be the only hotspot with the close and the pop-up showing. So when I click the close button, it will hide the product info and hide the close button, so hide self. So basically, and that's how it was working. And it's, it wasn't, basically the decision there was, do I go logic block route or do I go simple action route? And it was actually far simpler to create this with just standard actions. So as much and as powerful as logic blocks can be, sometimes the action is the simplest way. And I think I'll end on that little note. I think we've done custom properties to death and everything like that, and everything associated with it. But I just wanted to finish off with just showing you how this worked if you wanted to build similar. Okay, Karen, I suppose one more last shout out. Do we have any more questions?
Hi, yeah, we do. So I'm going to start with Barb's question. So she's saying, yeah, so you put the hash in front of the action, which makes instances. In a way, it's what it's doing is addressing all of those instances. Yeah. So,
Yes.
And like it's not making instances. They're there.
No.
It's just attacking them. So in the chat, I put in a link to our article about using regular expressions in the skin, and maybe that and it has a nice little background of what they are and how to use them. And yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, with the regular expressions, this was before we had the logic blocks and variables. Because if you've got a variable like a true false or a Boolean variable true false, you could have, I don't know, 20 elements, all visible logic blocks set to that. If that single variable goes to false, then they will hide. Right. So you could hide on one button click loads and loads of different elements. Well, before all that, we couldn't. So, but we still, as I said, we've had regular expressions for a while, and you could actually, if you named all of your, I don't know, if all the rectangles start with the word rectangle and then it has an underscore and one, right? What you could do with a regular expression is say, if it's, so pound rectangle dot asterisk. And what the dot asterisk will do is a wildcard. So basically, that regular expression is only looking for anything that starts with the word rectangle. So if you've got 50 rectangles, you could have a single action here. Click that one action, and 50 rectangles hide. So they're actually quite powerful, but that was venturing into the realms of having to know a bit of coding and regular expressions and things like that. So this is why, I say this is why, I'm assuming why, but we sort of went down the logic block route, because we're creating that functionality and some more, by the way, but we created that functionality just by using the skin and not have to worry about code. But again, if you're familiar with that and you're happy using that, then you can. That's the beauty of our skin editor. You can either use the skin editor and the tools that it comes with, but if you want to code, you can. So yeah, that's very powerful regular expressions, and we do use them a lot. And sometimes, go on, sorry. I was going to say, if for argument's sake, we actually insert them automatically. So if I had a button and I wanted to hide, say for argument's sake, so this is a button in the skin, all right, and I want to hide something on a hotspot. Now a hotspot is going to have multiple instances of it, so therefore it will need a regular expression to target that instance. So if I was to say mouse click, let's do visibility, and let's hide. So let's hide the title text box, right? So let's just type in title, and you'll see that we get this warning triangle. And if you hover over it, it says this element is a dynamically cloned blah 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 blah, but basically saying there's lots of instances of this. So if you want to target that text box, you need to have a regular expression ID, and if you click it, you'll see that it automatically adds the hash for you. And now this one button will hide every instance of the title. So if I was to do this, I'm probably going to break it, so if I do, don't worry. And if I open that up, I can only show one at a time really, but if I click that, you'll see that text box now hides. So if I click on that one and click it again, oh, I've already hidden it, so let's just refresh the page. Click on that one, you'll see the text box there, click it and it hides. So that one text box, so this box or stroke button is now hiding all the instances of the title from all of the point hotspots. And that's regular expressions, and that's Pano2VR actually helping you to apply the correct or when it needs to be a regular expression in the, if I was to take that away again, it will complain and say no, it's a regular expression is needed because this is an element. Pano2VR knows it's an element that's a child of a template, and it needs to be a regular expression. So we've also got tools in there to help you. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think having a basic knowledge maybe of regular expressions might be useful. So, if anything, it's a nice tool to have in the toolbox there that you can use.
Indeed.
So we have one last question, and this is coming from Aslan. And the question is, do you guys have plans to update Object2VR as well?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. We have plans.
Yes, we would like to. Yes, and we do have plans, and it's just going to take a little bit longer.
Yeah,
A little bit more while.
Absolutely. But there are plans. Plans are afoot, as they say. There are plans to do that, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're welcome, Barb. Barb says thank you too. And I think I think that's it. Yeah. So if anyone has any last questions, post them now. But I think that's the end.
Awesome. Right. Well, I think that's been a good introduction to these, and I will sort of end on this by saying, look, these custom properties are not just text areas which people were abusing in the past. These are more intelligent. They interact with the skin. They offer variable values, and you can be very, very dynamic with this, and it opens up all sorts of possibilities. So just think how you can use them. But say I've just used a simple project for a shop, and what this and what it's given me is the ability to show in a shop, are there accessibility issues for someone coming into the shop? We can see product information. One of the other things that, I said to myself, I'll probably show this if I get time, and I've run out of time. But you could also literally put in a point hotspot, a URL to a product page. And the idea is you could add a text box with a simple text link that when you click it, so not only do you get all of this, but on the price, when you click it, it opens up the product page that you're staring at, and you could purchase it there and then. So rather than having something here, you can open up the proper product page for that particular item. And again, you can do that in the custom properties. If I was to close the skin, you could add this as a custom property. You could call it, I don't know, URL and var URL, and you just type in the URL there, and then in the skin, what you would do is have something like I'm just going to add a text box just to show you, but you could add something like this, because I say I had prepared it to show if I'd had time. I've not really got the time to go into it now, but you could do this. So you can see there's the var URL I was talking about. So if you were to click this now, if we have a look at this in the output, you'll see that it says product page. When you click that, you could take you to the product URL that you would have added in the custom property, and you could have added that to our products pop up in here. So it's just a case of your imagination. What do you want to throw at this? And that's what I'm going to leave it on. I think we've covered it to death now. But yeah, the possibilities it's down to you. And I'm going to say, right, that's it for this week. I'm not sure if we've got anything lined up for next week. I think it's going to be a TBA. I mean, it's probably a conversation we should have had before starting this webinar, but I think it's going to be a TBA. And I think probably deserve a break for at least 1 week anyway.
Yeah, as of right now, we have nothing planned for next week. As of now, that might change.
Yeah,
that
we'll could
another
change.
One eventually, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think a week's break would be quite good, because obviously what we want to do as well is we've mentioned about things that are going to be happening in the next release, and it would be nice if we can get the next release out with a few of its little features that we've got in there to show you as well. So yeah, that'll be great. So from me, I'm going to say thank you very much for taking the time and joining us today, and I'll see you in the next webinar. Karen?
Yeah, great. Thanks. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thanks for your wonderful questions, and we'll see you next time. Or see you next time.
Yeah. All right then. Bye.
Okay. Bye.